Hi guys, let's talk about how to raise a doll. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about how to swap your Steam 1 on your EC155. Um, I apologize. I think this is gonna be a quite long video. Will try to make it short, so bear with me. But before that, let's talk about what screws that you have to take it off before you can lift up the top cover off. So first, um, if you open this, you take out the water chamber, you will see two screws here, one here, and then another one here. So you may think, oh, maybe that's all we need to take it off, but that's actually some tricky part also. If you turn this upside down, I'm sorry, yeah, take this out first, and then at the bottom there's two screws. You have to take this off. Sorry about my phone. And then underneath this steam knob there's another two screws, so you will have a total of 6 screws. So let's talk about what kind of tools that we use to remove all the screws. So of course you have your screwdriver, and then we're gonna use this because you have this tight spot. It's a really tough spot. So mine is a little bit too fat. If you happen to have a very skinny one, you know how when you do this, you have to do it in an angle. That is not good for your screws, and that's how you strip your screws usually. So that's why I recommend using one of this. And then you have your adapter, and then you have this, the second adapter, so you can use one of this screw head, like Phillips head, and then you can unscrew the screw from the bottom of your machine. So, but I kind of cheat a little bit. I start all the screw a little bit ahead of time, so that you don't have to waste time watching me doing this. But let's talk about what other tools that we need also. So you see, I have 2 knives. This is really dangerous, so don't cut yourself. And then we also need some pliers to remove the tubing. Of course, you have your steam one, and then you want to disassemble it. So for this plastic, this rubber garment thing, you just use some water and soapy water, and it will slide off like very easily. Well, of course, you have to take this one off first. Okay, let's start doing this. So I will first I will remove. Okay, now for the cap, that is where you need this knife. You don't have to use a knife, but it's just like the household items that I can found that is like thin, so you can go underneath this knob. Because I said it before, I already started a little bit. So but when you have this, it's gonna be very close to the bottom, so you have to stick something like underneath, and it has to be very thin. So when you do this, be careful, don't scratch your machine. So, and also if you're thinking like using a screwdriver, a flathead to pry it, you have a chance to damage the position where you pry your knob. That's what happened to my old machine. So that's why people recommend using 2 knives, so you can pry it like at the same time, pry it up, take it off. So you see you have 2 more screws. Take this aside and secure the knife, so you don't need the knife anymore. And then okay, so now we have all the screws taken out. When you lift this up, bear in mind that your cover, this cover, will detach. So hold your cover when you lift up the. You see, there's a little gap. You can lift this up, and then when you lift up, one hand, another hand secure this. Lift this up. See how this thing is like detached when you lift it up. So if you don't hold this, it will have a chance to fall off. But that's not like a big deal. But it's just like maybe you feel like something breaks or something. That's why try to be gentle to your machine. Oh, and one thing, before you do anything else, if you just got your machine, make sure you test your machine first before you disassemble it, because for your warranty, like if your machine is not working, like, you know, when it's arrived, so you don't want to, you know, do any modification before you can return it or get a new one. So that's what I did when I get my machine. I run it a few times, make sure it's running great, producing normally, get my coffee until I know it is completely 100% normal. There's nothing wrong with the machine. Then I do this mop on the machine. So now you will see this is connecting to the steam one, and then there's a, I hope you guys can see, there's a metal clips that holding the this hose. Okay guys, so I'm not able to take off the metal piece because of the space, and I suddenly memorized when I take this off the first time, I actually have the arm all the way out before I take off the hose. So let's do that instead of taking the hose first. I have some soapy water, so apologize for not mentioning it the first time. So you want to use your maybe a dab of this soap, or like hand soap, anything like lubricate the water, and then you want to put it on the very end of your arm, and then you kind of use your finger, dab it so that the water will drip down to the steam one. So after you do that, and then you push up and down a few times, so it will lubricate, you know, the space in between, and then you can start trying to pry it out. And then because I've been doing this like a few times, like the first time is the most difficult. First you want to push your arm, put the steam arm like inside your machine, and then you start like prying up slowly, like don't force too much, but at the same time you have to have some strength, put some strength into it. I'm sorry, like if it's like not easy to see. Okay, so now you can see the whole thing lift up a little bit, so that's like a good sign, because that's where you will have your first turning. So like I said, try to loop the whole thing. It will help removing the steam one a lot easier. So when you pass the first, not pass, like when you meet the first joint, the way I do it is try to turn it, but when you're making the turn, make sure you don't bend this metal, because if you put too much force into it, it will actually bend this. Let me make sure you guys see it. You will actually bend this little metal. You can imagine it. So, hold on, I can't let you what you do is just like try to make that turn happen. Okay, so now we have the first part out or in. Actually, do the same for the remaining part. But the trick is you have to find the right angle to do it. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. You have to lift this up, pass this to this side, and then you can continue pry up. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but this is just how I'm going to do it. So yes, I get that angle. So you see how for the last turn, you actually have to, move it to this side and this side, try to do like different angles and wiggle it, and then finally you have this all out. Alright guys, so for taking this metal piece out, I have a solution. So remember, I have some soapy water. You want to loop around this metal piece, and then you're gonna use something that is like narrow or pointy. See this metal piece? You have a little gap inside here. You just stick some pointy here, and you have a leverage, and you start like pry on it. But be careful, don't accidentally like make a cut anywhere on this hose. But even if you do, it's not a big deal. You can just change a new one. Somebody actually recommend you take this whole part out and then swap for a new hose. But if you want to save this one, you're gonna be very careful. And then you pry this hole a little bit bigger. It actually will loosen this metal piece. And then you use some soapy water loop around this. See how I already did a lot. Like you grab on the opening here, and you kind of wiggle it back toward your steam one, and then eventually it's gonna come off like this. So, and then always don't pull on it like this. That's how I make my mistakes when I break my hose. So you want to, the hardest part is already done, so you don't want to break it at this point. Use whatever tools that are gonna help you. I apologize, I didn't have all the tools listed out at the beginning. And also, I forgot one thing to mention. Like one thing you're gonna need it is the zip tie. Okay, now you have your steam one out of the hose. If you want, you can get some clean water to clean out the hose, dab it into the water so that it will clean out the soapy water. And then I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get water from the kitchen, and then I will be back. Okay, so I'm back with some clean water. You just put your hose in the water a few times. Try to clean it out, the soapy water.